Now we're going to talk about multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. To find the product of two or more fractions, find the product of the numerator and the product of the denominator. So in our first example, we're going to multiply 2 times 5 and 7 times 10. And as always, we want that in simplest form. In example 2, we're multiplying. So we'll multiply the numerators. 1 times 7 is 7. 6 times 9 is 54. We're going to make sure that is in simplest terms before we move on. In example 3, A over B times C over D. Will be equal to AC over BD. In our fourth example, 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times 7 is 35. We make sure that that is in simplest form. In our example 2, when multiplying fractions, you can divide out common factors from the numerators and denominators so that the product will be in simplest form. So in our first example of 2/7 and 5/10, we are able to divide out common fractions in the numerators and denominators. So 2 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And that is all that we're able to find in common factors for the numerator and denominator. So now we just multiply across, and we get 5 over 35. And then we could simplify that as to 1 over 7. But also, notice, my second fraction now is 5 over 5. And that is the same as multiplying 1/7 times 1. And so your answer is still 1 over 7. In example 2, 5/11 times 22 over 25. Each of those have a common factor of 5. Each of these have a common factor of 11. So our answer, final answer, is 2/5. In our next example, 1/6 is our final answer. In example 4, we're going to try to either simplify and also divide out the common factors. So what we can do in example 4 is simplify, divide this numerator denominator by 100. So that changes to 5 over 6. And then 525 over 650, we can reduce this by 25 going into each one. Now, we now have 21 over 26 times 5 over 6. I'm also looking at another way to simplify it. This 6, this 21 has a common factor of 3. So now I can multiply 7 times 5, which is 35. 26 times 2, which is 52. And 35 over 52 is my final answer. Number 3, when multiplying a whole number by a fraction, rewrite the whole number as an equivalent improper fraction. So we're going to take, in our first example, 12 and put it over 1 times 3 over 8. Again, you can factor it out by 4 3 times 3 is 9 over 2, 4, and 1 half. In example 2, we have 1 half times 30, which we're going to put in an improper. Final answer will be 15. Number 4, when multiplying mixed numbers by fractions or other mixed numbers, rewrite the mixed numbers as improper fractions, then multiply. So 4 and 2/3 times 5 and 3/7. We're going to change each of those into improper fractions. Then we're going to see if we can factor out. Always simplify your final answer. Now we're going to evaluate expressions with variables. You are going to replace the given number with a variable as indicated. So in each of these, x is going to equal 2/3, y is going to equal to 2 and 5/6, and z is equal to 6. I'm going to pause the video, let you work on it. We'll come back and check our work. In our first example, we have 6 minus 2/3 times 2 and 5/6. Order of operations tells us that we need to multiply first. So right below that, I multiplied 2/3 times 17 over 6. I factored out. My final answer was 1 8/9 after I reduced it from 17 over 9. Then I took the 1 8/9 and I needed to subtract it from 6. But when I set it up, I noticed I had to rename the 6 to 5 and 9 over 9. So now I have 5 and 9 over 9 minus 1 8/9. 8 from 9 is 1. Bring down my denominator for 9. And then 1 from 5 is 4. So my final answer is 4 and 1/9. On B. 1 over 6 times 2/3 plus 2 and 5/6. I have substituted the value for each of the variables. Order of operations, I'm going to multiply first. So 1 times 1 is 1 over 9. I'm going to bring down the rest of my work. Now I need to take 1/9 and add 2/6 to it. So I'm going to come over to the side. The least common multiple for these two would be 18. I need to remember to bring my whole number over. My final answer is 2 and 13 over 18. After we go back and check our work, we notice that I subtracted in the problem called for addition. So now my final answer is 2 and 17 over 18. Okay, in C, we have 3 minus 1/5 times Z. Our Z is 6, so I'm going to put it over 1. Order of operations, I'm going to multiply first. 1 times 6 is 6 over 5. Now I have 3 minus 6 over 5, which is the same as 1 and 1/5. Now I'm going to move off to the side. I'm going to rename this number so that I can subtract. My final answer will be 1 and 4/5. In our D example, I'm going to set it up. Order of operations tells me that I need to do the grouping first. So we're just going to start with the grouping on the left. Two-thirds plus 17 over 6. I'm going to go off to the side. You know, I probably should have left it. 2/3 plus 2 and 5 over 6. Now I'm adding my fractions. 4 plus 5 is going to be 9 over 6 and 2. Now that's going to be another whole, so that's going to change to 3 and 3/6, which is going to equal to 3 and 1/2. So the first parentheses, when solved, is going to be 3 1/2. 3 1/2 is going to be added to 2 and 5/6 times 6. So 2 and 5/6 times 6 would equal to 'So now I simplify the second parentheses, which is going to equal to 17. 17 plus 3 1/2 is 20 and 1/2. So as we look back at D, we substituted each number for the variable. We solved each parentheses, brought the answer down for each, then added the two together. Number 6, Snoopy planted 144 tulips, but only 5/8 of them bloomed. How many tulips bloomed? So we have 144 tulips. We need to find out what is 5/8 of those, because 5/8 of those bloomed. Most of the time in math problems, if you're trying to determine what of is, you multiply. So 5/8 of 144 will be 5/8 times 144. Final answer will be 90 tulips. Trainers, this is number 7, trainers measure horses in hands, the distance across an adult's palm. The average height of a horse is 15 1/2 hands. If a hand is about 1/3 foot, about how tall is an average horse in feet? Okay, so the information that we know is how a horse's height is measured in hand. If the hand is about a 1/3 foot, and you have the average height is 15 and a half hands, you're going to take 15 and a half. That is what the average height is, and if each one of them are about 1/3 of a foot, we're going to multiply the two. Once you change 15 and 1/2 to an improper fraction, you're going to multiply it times 1/3. 31 times 1 is 31. 2 times 3 is 6. So we simplify that to 5 1/6 feet.